If you RV or camp, chances are that you've heard of Thousand Trails, that you've also probably heard mixed reviews. Some campers swear by it and others think it's a waste of money. So we're going to break down the specifics of the Thousand Trails membership and go over the pros and cons to help you make the decision on if it's worth it for you.
Hi, we're McCraws on the Map, and we are a full-time RV couple. We have the opportunity to get a free Thousand Trails membership whenever we purchase our RV, and so we have insights on what we were able to see and the campgrounds that we were able to stay at, so we can tell you more about those.
We stayed at multiple different Thousand Trails campgrounds when we had our membership, and we didn't have any money out of our own pocket into it. So we can give you a fairly objective review of the program and our experience.
To mention what Thousand Trails is, it is a campground membership that you pay a fee, and then you're able to stay at campgrounds for free, basically, after you pay that initial payment. And it can be an annual thing or a monthly thing, depending on what plan you choose. But it gives you access to about 200 different campgrounds around the country, and they have 5 regions that you can choose from. Thousand Trails also has other options if you're not an RVer. They have a cabin pass, which is $175 a month, and that's like glamping, resort glamping. And then there's also the annual pass, which you can get, which allows you to stay longer term at certain campgrounds.
There are multiple different package and membership options that give you varying levels of access to campgrounds as well as different perks, but they also come with different rules and different levels of commitment. The base option and cheapest is $525 a year, but that only gives you access to one region. So if you're not going to be traveling very far, you're going to stay locally, that's a pretty good option and a pretty cheap way to do it. But if you want access to more of the 200 plus campgrounds, as well as the resorts or the nicer campgrounds that are included in Thousand Trails, then you have to get one of the higher membership options. The higher membership options also come usually with a 2-year commitment and a down payment. So it's a higher investment up front and a longer commitment period. In order to have access to all of the campgrounds in the Thousand Trails membership as well as the resort properties, then you can expect to spend probably around $4,500 for the 2-year commitment. But then it goes up from there if you want longer booking windows, if you want to be able to stay at campgrounds longer and have less time that you need to be out of the system in between bookings. You may have also heard about some of Thousand Trails' legacy membership programs. These were large memberships that were basically for life and a little bit more so like a timeshare program. They no longer offer these memberships new, but you can still buy used ones for members who purchased them in the past. So we're not going to touch on the specifics of those memberships, but just know that that is an option as well, and so you may have heard things about that. On the surface, a Thousand Trails membership often sounds like a really great deal. You pay a one-time fee and you get to camp for free, basically. But it can add up really quickly depending on your travel style and where you want to go. So we are going to take some time to break down the pros and cons of the membership, as well as talk about which types of travelers this is and is not right for.
Thousand Trails is a national program that has coverage all over the United States, but some of the areas are better than others, such as like Florida and the Southeast has more of a footprint than like Colorado and Wyoming that doesn't have hardly any of their campgrounds. So it really depends on what region you're looking for, if they'll have campgrounds in that area.
Yeah, so you really need to think about how you're going to travel. If you're wanting to have national coverage, this may not be the best option, but if there are lots of campgrounds in the regions where you're going to spend most of your time, then it can be really beneficial.
So let's talk about some of the pros of Thousand Trails. First, they have lots of amenities. So they have pools, they have rec rooms, they have basketball courts and things like that. They also have the ability for you to stay long term if you want to stay, so that's a nice feature. And you can save money if you camp a lot, so that's also something that's nice.
Additionally, Thousand Trails as a whole is generally very family friendly and also very dog friendly. Most of the ones we've stayed at have had dog parks as well as playgrounds and lots of activities for kids.
They also have really friendly staff whenever we've stayed at their campgrounds. Most of them have full hookup sites, so that's really nice and convenient. And they have the ability for free for you to stay either 14 or 21 days, depending on the package that you prefer.
In general, they do also have lots of campground options in lots of different locations, and the majority of the campgrounds that we have stayed at have had really good security and we felt very safe, so that's a plus too. Now let's get into some of the cons. Some of the campgrounds can be really competitive when it comes to reservations, especially the more popular places or the resort locations or ones in popular destinations. Additionally, there are limits on how long you can stay in the campgrounds. The base package offers 14 days for free. Some higher packages let you stay for 21 days, but you do have to leave the campground after that stay limit. And then you do have a set time that you have to be out of the Thousand Trails system before you can come back to another park. That time out of the system can be waived if you have a higher package, but the base packages do require you to be out of the system for at least 7 days.
Another con to Thousand Trails is that they let a lot of older campers stay there. And we're not against that if they're in good shape, but sometimes it's trashy and clunky around the campgrounds, and nobody wants to be camping next to a neighbor that's got all kind of yard ornaments and everything else outside their camper. So that can be a little bit of a hassle sometimes. And then it also can really be confusing whenever you call into Thousand Trails, because sometimes the campgrounds want you to call the specific campground location, and other times they want you to call the direct, like, overall 1-800-1000 Trails number. So it's really confusing on who do you call whenever you have a problem, or if you need to change a reservation. So something else to think about.
2, the memberships and the different packages and options can be kind of confusing, and the rules vary a lot. So it can be hard to navigate which is best for you and how much it's actually going to cost.
There are also regional restrictions, as we've mentioned, so you can't stay at different areas if you're not paying for those regions, so that's not convenient for full-time travelers. Quality of these campgrounds varies on which location you're at, so you really don't know what you're going to get. So some are really nice, some of them are not as nice. Just know that going into it. They also have poor infrastructure at a lot of the campgrounds we've visited, so they have like stuff that's kind of run down, stuff that's not as nice upkept. Like they have faucets that need to be tightened or seals to be replaced, they leak. They have decks that have broken boards or broken like steps, so they have them boarded off. They have several things like that we've noticed. So yeah, this stuff is just old infrastructure, because I have cranked on the handle to turn this water off, and they must have bad seals in the faucet or something. It says it is still pouring out, as you can tell.
There are certainly nicer Thousand Trails campgrounds, but a lot of the ones that we have stayed at have been old and pretty run down.
Yeah, and for resorts as well, you have to pay another fee, so you can't just go to a nicer resort without having to pay that extra fee.
Those are really nice campgrounds, but they are often an additional $20 per night on top of your membership. We have also noticed with several of the campgrounds that we have stayed at that the spots can be tighter, especially if they have a lot of tree cover. So it can be kind of hard to maneuver and get into the site, especially if you have a large rig. Of course, that isn't every Thousand Trails campground, but we have noticed quite a few that have that issue. Another con that we have definitely noticed in our experience is that while there are campgrounds that are close to major cities or popular tourist destinations, they often can be up to an hour or an hour and a half away from those places, even though they claim to be the San Diego campground. They can still be pretty far away, so keep that in mind and make sure you look at the GPS to see how far it actually is from what you want to see. So as you can see, there are a lot of different pros and cons to Thousand Trails memberships, but they're going to affect you differently depending on how you travel and how you want to use the membership. So we're going to summarize kind of who this would be a good fit for. Thousand Trails would be a good option for you if you RV probably at least 50 to 75 nights a year, so that you can get your money's worth out of the free stays. Also, if you travel for extended periods of time, or if you're full-time RVer, you can definitely get your money's worth. Also, if you know you want to stay in full hookup RV parks, this is a good option for that, because you're basically saving your money that you would be spending elsewhere. Also, if you are someone that can plan ahead for your reservations and know where you're going to be when, that is good, because a lot of the campgrounds do book up early, and so you want to be able to plan ahead. If you don't mind being a little bit further from some of the popular destinations or the cities, this can also be a really good option. And then finally, if you know what particular region you want to travel in, or if you want to get one of the higher packages that allows access to all of the campgrounds, then this can be a good option for you too, so that you can know where you want to be and know that you have campground coverage in those areas.
So this is probably not for you if you're someone like us that likes to boondock or stay in national parks or state parks that are oftentimes more scenic. This would be for someone who has like a bigger rig and has to stay with hookups and has to be connected to power for like their air conditioners and things like that. This would probably also not be for you if you're only going to camp a few weekends out of the year. So if you don't camp very often, I wouldn't pay for this package. This also would not be very good if you're trying to be conveniently located near cities and things like that. If you can't plan your bookings in advance, that would be something that you would struggle with as well with this membership, because it needs you to have a little bit of planning involved. And then finally, if you're going to travel to areas that have poor coverage, that would also be a hassle.
So as you can see, like with most camping memberships, Thousand Trails is not a one-size-fits-all that works for everybody. For some, it can save thousands of dollars each year. For others, it's an expensive membership that may not get used. So you really need to think about your unique travel style and what works for you, and not just buy into it because everyone else says that it's the best thing. We hope this breakdown has been helpful for you, and that you are able to decide whether or not this is the right fit for you. If you have additional questions that weren't answered in the video, please drop them in the comments below, and make sure that you like and subscribe McCraws on the Map for more RV life travel content.